It's huge when it's unified.
It's huge when it's unified.
Mm.
I'm going to let you introduce our amazing guest.
Thank you, Angela. And our amazing guest this morning is Simon Fonteyn. Welcome, Simon.
Thanks, Wayne.
Simon is the Managing Director of Leasing Information Systems. Now, Leasing Information Systems is a specialty business focusing on retail leasing, and we'll get Simon to tell us a little bit more about that.
Well, we start and finish with helping retailers who want to negotiate the best retail deal, find the right location at the right price, with state-of-the-art, up-to-date database and a team of property professionals so that they can maximise returns, get the best foot traffic and remain ahead of their competitors.
And it's important to remain ahead of your competitors, isn't it? You want to know that you're not paying too much in your retail lease. Tell me, Simon, how did this business come about for you? Because you're helping business owners create a level playing field, and you're helping them with that. How did this come about?
Well, my background is in property, and I'm a registered valuer.
Right.
So I developed a lot of expertise in retail, property, leasing, development, management, finance, through various projects. I helped open the Chifley Tower project, which is just around the corner from here.
Yes.
Brought some international retailers out, part of the international team. I worked for an agency, I worked for Urbis, and there was always, one of the things that I noticed was there's always a lack of information, particularly for small business. Small business retailers are not property experts, but yet rent, I'm sure Angela can testify to this, is just normally...
I'm just holding back, Simon.
The second, or sometimes even the most expensive part of their operating costs.
Right.
So it's an enormous issue. They struggle with it, but yet they find it very difficult.
Everything that you have said defining your company is an absolutely fantasy list for any retailer.
I think so.
It is what we go to sleep at night wishing we had and knew and that we could get our hands on. You are someone I would like to put in a little bottle and keep here forever and ever and ever.
Oh, thank you. It's very kind of you.
Because
I appreciate
it is the most difficult thing we do is the lease.
It
and
is.
I'm going to be a little bit controversial and quite emotional here. Landlords suck the bloody life out of you, and they have an advantage of negotiation. Small business retailers feel very insecure and weak in front of a very big organisation, and they feel that they have to take the first offer dealt them.
Well, that's true. There's definitely an imbalance of power in terms of negotiation. If you talk about, a lot of the retail shopping centres are owned by some of the largest corporations in Australia, including Westfield, AMP, Colonial, Mirvac.
Yes, I'm just clenching my jaw.
Just to mention a few. However, and exactly what you said is spot on, that tenants feel very intimidated, but they shouldn't be. They shouldn't be. They shouldn't feel intimidated. Well, and also a lot of it is lack of knowledge and lack of empowerment. But even if you do have the knowledge and the empowerment, you're still 100% right. There is an imbalance. A lot of it's in what they call information asymmetry, where the tenant has their own lease, but they don't have the leases around the actual, if they're in a shopping centre or in a strip, they don't have it around, and they don't have the turnover of the other shops. So, and the landlord has that information, so there is a bit of a power imbalance. However, with information comes power and knowledge. Everyone says it's a very misquoted topic, but it really is true.
You're completely right.
You need information, but not only, I was saying this to Wayne, you not only need information, you need to know how to use it. It's all well and good to have a lease, but you need to know what are the critical points. And this is why, as I was saying to Wayne, I've released this new pack, just specifically for small retailers, which I'm calling the 3 biggest mistakes in retail leasing and how to avoid them. And one of them is, did you know, Angela, there's 15 negotiation points, at least 15, other than the rent in a lease.
Besides a baseball bat at the table?
Besides the baseball bat, there's 15 points other than the rent and your lack of, your issues with the landlord. And the old saying, everything is negotiable, is really everything is negotiable.
Absolutely, Simon. We go to a negotiating table And I can only speak from my own personal perspective.
Yeah.
I read my first lease when I was 9.
Right.
Because my parents don't speak English.
Oh, right.
So leases aren't unfamiliar to me. But most small business owners conduct all their negotiations via solicitors. It is very rare that they come face to face with the landlord. So you've got the landlord solicitor and you've got the tenant solicitor.
Yep.
And that's how these ultimate negotiations take place. Originally, you might have made an inquiry to the space and it's the property guy that's taking care of the leasing who's the intermediary. Now, he's earning money from leasing out the site. So it's in his best interest to get as much rent per square metre as what he can possibly get so that him and his company get that money. Most of us don't know that. We don't know what drives that property guy. He's a nice guy. Could be a woman.
Sure.
She's a pretty girl. They seem really friendly. They tell you all the time, I'm going to get you the best deal possible. No. They're going to get the best deal possible for them because they've been hired by the landlord to fill those spaces. And I would do that too as a business owner. I'm not saying it's a wrong thing. It's a market economy.
No.
It's the right way to do it. But most small business owners don't know this. And they don't know that they can negotiate the terms of a lease.
Absolutely. And you just said a lot of small businesses use their solicitor. I was actually chatting to a guy yesterday who you're spot on. They use their solicitor, but the solicitor's not always the best person to
commercial.
do it. Well, they don't know. No, but even not that. They don't understand retail leasing. Retail leasing is a very specific form of commercial law, which has its own act, which overrides the retail lease in itself. So you have to be very knowledgeable about the Retail Leases Act. You also have to be very knowledgeable about the industry, and it's a complex area. So really, sometimes you're better off getting independent advice rather than a solicitor. Because it's a negotiation point, right? It's not a commercial. It's not necessarily something that you can go, oh, here, I'll give you 10 grand to my solicitor, you go sort it out.
It's not the purchase of property, which is a lot more straightforward.
Sure.
A business lease is completely different.
Absolutely.
And unless you have experience in the negative,
yes,
you very rarely don't know that you have options.
That's right.
And a landlord is always going to deliver you a lease in their favour.
Well, that's their interest.
It's always going to have all the things they want. Their fantasy list is in the lease.
And that's right. And the other thing that you've got to remember as a small business owner is that the value of the building derives from the income stream from the lease. So, as you said, it's a market economy, and landlords will always try and maximise their rental, but the key is it's not always about maximising the rental, it's about maximising the covenant, the security. I would much rather have a Vivo cafe in my building if I was a landlord and have a good covenant and know I've got a good operator and take, a longer lease with Vivo as opposed to getting someone in. I might get a little bit more rent, but I'm not necessarily going to be able to get that tenant to stay.
Then you need to go speak to my landlord.
Well, I'm just saying.
Because I'm having those current issues right now.
I'm saying, as an issue, the covenant is very, very important.
I completely agree. I mean, a lot of small business owners are property investors and we have our own tenants.
Sure.
And it doesn't suit any property owner to have a vacant premises.
No, it doesn't.
And it doesn't suit any property owner to have a poor paying tenant.
No, exactly.
Or a high maintenance tenant. Now, I have taken
or a tenant
over
who can't work with the building.
But the only one more thing I'm going to add, and I will let Wayne jump in here a little bit.
Thank you, Angela.
Is one of the I think one of the amazing things that happens occasionally is that also with bigger landlords there are property managers who really don't have any retail leasing experience as well. In fact, the small business owner probably has a lot more experience than them. And they tend to have to deal with the property manager between them and the actual landlord who makes the decisions. And I would offer advice to all small business owners, if you are not getting what you need from the property manager, insist on meeting further up the food chain. Because they are not going to make the decision and they do not deliver your message in the same way that you would face to face with someone.